Everyone. My name is Ana Marta Ayala, and I'd like to welcome you to my YouTube channel. As a reminder, I do every video in English and Spanish, and the degree theory is based on modern Western astrology using the Placidus house system. In today's video, I wanted to talk to you about Cuba because for those of you that don't know, I am Cuban. I was born on the island and my family immigrated to the United States when I was 3 months old. So I was raised here in the United States. But my dad's family, he was the only one that came. So he left eight brothers and sisters, his parents, his extended family. Everybody lives on the island, right? Um, and so his sister, which I have communication with, is telling me, hey, in one of your videos, you said that, Cuba, the communism was going to end because that was the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, Venezuela, and I totally forgot about Nicaragua. But she's like, okay, come on, how long can this misery last? So anyway, I am going to show you how I do my research and how I come up with the data so that way, if you want to investigate something in your life, right, which if you're young, keep a journal of major events that happen in your life and what the astrological placements were. For example, where was Saturn? Where was Jupiter? Where was Mars? Okay. Venus as well. Although Venus and Mars are personal planets, but Mars is a trigger. Saturn and Jupiter are mostly the ones, and then of course the outer planets, those are placed for a very long time. So um, anyway, I'm not just going to give you the prediction and say, oh, I think Cuba is going to be independent, right? The independence is close or whatever. I'm going to show you how I do it so that way, um, you guys can venture out on whatever subject you want to do for your own country or for your life, or something, like the lunar nodes are also eclipses are also triggers, okay? And you know that the lunar node and eclipses go hand in hand. So anyway, I am going to share with you. Um, oops, nope. I don't think, wait, no, wrong way. Let me share one more time. Here we go. So I looked up Wikipedia, right? And this gives me a timeline of Cuban history. This was going, um, this this was reminiscing my childhood because I've always lived in Miami, right? And in case you guys didn't know it, when Cubans came over, it was only supposed to be for a little while, right? We're supposed to, because of the revolution and blah blah blah, the Bay of Pigs invasion, they tried to go and free Cuba after they discovered what communism and Fidel Castro was all about, right? So anyway, I went to a Cuban school because I was learning English and Spanish at the same time. And of course, the history of Cuban, all of the very special dates, right? We celebrated them. I learned the Cuban anthem before I learned the American anthem. Okay, so just so that you guys have an idea. So anyway, in Wikipedia, it gives you this by year, and then it was interesting because where Jose Marti is one of the biggest patriots in Cuba, and he was born, he's a Capricorn. No, he's an Aquarius, I'm sorry. He's an Aquarius. And back then, okay, because, like I said, I was reminiscing my childhood here. Back then, the generals, the leaders went to war. They were the first ones on the battlefield. They didn't sit in an office. They didn't sit away from the battles. They were there hand in hand with their soldiers. So anyway, this gives you, a whole bunch of dates of, massacres, about protests, eh, a ton of stuff. But so what I did is I took the ones that I knew were important, like Grito de Baile, Grito de Yara, because I know those from, my childhood. The Declaration of Independence, which happened in 1902, and then the Spanish-American War. Um, we also had Antonio Maceo, Máximo Gómez were also uh, Cuban patriots, but they weren't Cuban. All right. But they were rebels in the Cuban Revolution. Okay. So let me show you what I did because I picked out the important dates and then I put them into an Excel spreadsheet. So let me share the Excel spreadsheet. Here we go. All right. So the Aponte Rebellion, the Grito de Yara, Grito de Baile, the Spanish-American War, the when Cuba was established as a republic, Fidel Castro's first attempt, okay, in 1953, and then in 1959, January 1st, he was successful in the Cuban Revolution. So then you see I labeled these, right? One, two, three, four, all the way to seven events. And then I pulled up the charts. Now, mind you, obviously, I don't have times for these, so I can only see where the planets were, not necessarily the houses, right? Or the rising signs or anything like that. But for all of these, I looked for like a common denominator, right? And I noticed, for example, Mars, a lot of the times was in Taurus. See, you have one, two, three, four. Okay. Jupiter in Gemini in an air sign. You got Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, and Gemini. So when Jupiter is in an air sign, things happen in Cuba. Saturn, Capricorn and Sagittarius are the ones that, because you have Capricorn, Sagittarius, Sagittarius, Capricorn, and then Sagittarius. Okay. And then the nodes. Of course, you guys know that wherever the north node is, the opposite is where the south node is. So, we have Virgo and Pisces in two of these events. The north nodes, where the nodes were in Virgo and Pisces, either north node in Virgo or south node in Virgo, but that was relevant to, two of these revolutions. And then the other one, Leo and Aquarius, where the nodes are, Leo and Aquarius. So we are just finishing Pisces and Virgo, and things have been happening with Cuba where President Trump has put, restrictions and a lot of pressure on the Cuban government. And now we're going to be entering in a week or so, because I'm filming this on July 23rd, we're going to be entering into the North Node in Aquarius and the South Node in Leo. So to me, this is going to trigger because when you look at the first revolution, look at this. You had the Saturn-Neptune conjunction exactly at 21 degrees of Libra. And so what happened in February of this year? We had the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries, which is the opposite of Libra. Okay. And if you look at nodes, Aquarius and Leo, they were present in this revolution, the first attempt in 1953, right? Um, and eh, God, I lost my train of thought. Okay, so we had, let me see. Okay, yeah, the nodes of Aquarius and Leo. And so we're going to have the Aquarius Leo nodes happening now at the end of this month. So we see a lot of the oppositions or similarities. Now, one of the things that even when you look at the revolution when it triumphs in 1959, the North Node was in Libra. And again, we had the Aries point happen this year as well. So it's in opposition to the natal North Node of the revolution. So I think given that the eclipses, so wait, before I get there, so what I did is I obviously summarized all of these, which I copy pasted from astro.com, right? That little chart that you get at the bottom of the natal chart. And so I put up this table, right? And again, I identified like the common themes, right? And then I looked for a pattern to see what, and not everything has a pattern, mind you, okay? But Mars did, Mars and Taurus, okay? Which already happened in 2026. Jupiter, like I said, in air signs, Saturn in either Capricorn or Sagittarius. And then again, the revolution here in 1953 was Saturn in Libra. Um, and then the Saturn Neptune conjunction in Libra and the true node, the nodes where the placements are. So based on this, I think that the eclipse that's going to happen now in August will start a more it opens the window, let's just say it opens the window for Cuba to start becoming a liberated country. So we have the Saturn Neptune conjunction in the Aries point, which is opposite to the Saturn Neptune conjunction in Libra of 1953, which was Fidel's first attempt. Okay. We have the nodes that are going to be in the Aquarius Leo axis. And like I said, the Saturn Neptune conjunction is in Aries, which happened in February, is opposite to the Saturn Neptune conjunction in Libra. And Pluto in Leo, Pluto was in Leo back then. Um, and now see Pluto in Leo here, okay? And now Pluto is in Aquarius. So again, Pluto, transformation or total destruction and then rebirth, okay? So based on these aspects and transits and triggers, I believe that Cuba will become independent if in other words, communism will fail in Cuba finally. Because I want it to happen because my dad is 90, he's not doing well, he has Alzheimer's, and that's a very difficult disease. So I want him to at least know that Cuba is independent. So based on this, I think that the eclipses that we're gonna have, I believe it's August 12th is the first eclipse in Leo. Um, it will open the window to having more action in Cuba. I know I saw yesterday, I saw a video on humanitarian aid going to Cuba. And of course, living in Miami, the Cubans are very focused on getting Cuba liberated. For me, like, like I said, for my dad, it's a big deal. For me, not so much because I consider the United States my country. I mean, I'm very proud of my Cuban roots. But I've lived here all my life because when you come when you're 3 months old, you don't remember anything from where you came from, right? It's not like I came when I was a teenager or I was, 6 or 7 that you can remember some things from your childhood that relate to the island, right? For me, it's more so that my aunt can get some peace of mind, right? Because I'll do the Spanish video and I'll text her. I said, okay, you can go and check it out, right? But um, but that way, I do think that like I said, next month, the thing with Cuba will start. And I believe that over the next 18 months, when the nodes are in Leo, and I mean, North Node in Aquarius and South Node in Leo. The South Node in Leo South Node is to lose something. And if you look here, let me see something. I did it again. My goodness. Mercury is still retrograde. That's my only excuse. So here we have the same North Node in Aquarius, South Node in Leo in the 1953 first revolution in Cuba. So that's why I'm thinking a lot of things um, are repeating, right? Or like there are a lot of aspects that were there when Fidel first tried to, you know, take over the island. And for those of you who think communism is the greatest thing on earth, I want you to reflect on all of the communist countries, because Venezuela was a very prominent country before Maduro took over and made it communist, right? I'm not saying that dictatorships are good, right? I'm not saying that the division in classes are good. Um, but what I am saying is communism is not good. The idea of taking from the rich and giving to the poor, it doesn't work out. The military are the ones that become rich, right? They do take away everything from the rich. They do, right? But then everyone becomes poor except for the military. So, or at least that has been the experience that we have seen in Cuba and also in Venezuela. So, I'll tell you this, once Cuba is liberated, oh my goodness, Miami will be just the biggest block party ever because we still have, like I said, my dad is 90 and people that are in their 70s, 80s, and 90s, they remember growing up there and they remember they left their family there. And you don't know, can you imagine? Let's say you're here and all of a sudden you have to go live in a place where you don't know the language, you don't know the customs, you're not necessarily being welcomed, right? Because back then when you came in the 50s and the 60s, there was no food stamps, no rent assistance, no aid, no nothing. You got here when we got here in April, 2 days later, my dad was at the docks working, just what do you call it? Transporting, right? Like lifting stuff, moving them. It, it wasn't, it's not a walk in the park like now. Now you get here, I mean, in Miami, you don't need English. You need Spanish. Okay. And I'm being totally honest. Okay. So it's a completely different story. But I'm hoping and praying that at least my dad gets to see it before he passes. So anyway, um, I wanted to show you how I do the astrology and what I look at, right? So I look at Mars, I look at the eclipses, I look at repeating patterns, right? Like repeating aspects, the lunar nodes. So, and any oppositions or squares, right? So that way you can take this and, apply it to your own country, your own life, whatever happened 19 years ago when the lunar nodes were in Aquarius and Leo, chances are those themes are going to be happening again. So, anyway, I hope that you have found this video helpful because I don't like to make a prediction without showing you how I get there. That way you learn the astrology. Because I could just say, hey, I think Cuba's going to be independent in the next 18 months. Great. But I'm showing you how. Okay. All right. So thank you for watching. If you would like a natal chart reading with me, please send me an email to astrology@aol.com. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Just, if anything, so people that want to learn astrology, well, here's an example, right? All right, so thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.